I was laughing as I made these because I didn't have anywhere to go to learn about how to do repos. I don't know if there's a book out there that says this is how you do it. I know a friend of mine, Chris, he wrote one. I don't know how you'd find it, but I even talk about him in one of these, one of my chapters. I ran across him down in Cordova one night. That's a funny story, and it's coming up in one of the chapters. But I don't know. Maybe this stuff would help you if you're looking to be a repo man, or you are one. Maybe to give you some ideas. I thought this one was pretty cool. This is chapter 6, and it's the spoof box. Uh, there's a fine line that you walk when you're trying to find information about a debtor. Now, the best repo is to drive to the given address, and the collateral is sitting there waiting on you. You back up to the vehicle in the driveway, and you leave. Hook and book. Those are the best and the easiest. But it doesn't always work out that way. Many times you go to the address and the vehicle's not there. If the address is close to your office or not far from your storage lot, why, it's not a problem. But if you have to drive 70 miles or more one way to an address and the vehicle is not there, you really don't have the luxury of going by there again and again, day after day, hoping to catch the vehicle there. It's too far to keep going back and forth if you don't have to. So sometimes you got to be resourceful but careful in order to find your vehicle. That's why I say that Bible verse of being wise as serpent and harmless as doves applies. The Fair Debt Collections Practices Act says that you cannot tell anyone other than the debtor what's going on. You can't violate the debtor's privacy by letting a third party know that the debtor's late on their payments or that you're looking to repossess the debtor's vehicle. I drove to Iuka, Mississippi one day looking for a vehicle. Iuka is about 100 miles from my home in Madison, Alabama, and it's even further away from our storage lot in Falkville. It's too far to have to make more than one trip if possible. Well, I went to the given address. It was a house in a rural area with parking in the driveway. There was no garage, and there's one house next door, and the vehicle was not there. So I knocked on the debtor's door, and no one was home. Well, now, Iuka is too far to keep making regular trips over there to try to find the collateral. So I'm going to try to get as much information as I can on the debtor and see if I can't locate the car. Now, I kept a little box in my truck, and it was about 6-8 inches square, and it was just a little package. It looked like a package from UPS. There was nothing on the box to speak of, written on it. It looked exactly like a package that you would receive in the mail, and that's exactly what I wanted it to look like. It was what I called my spoof box. After figuring out that no one was home at the given address, I went back to my truck and I got my little box, and I took the box and my clipboard and I walked next door. I went to the neighbor's house. I knocked on the neighbor's door, and when the lady came to the door, she looked at me and I looked down at my package, which didn't have anything on it, but I was acting like I was reading the name off of the package when I'm asking for the debtor. So she comes to the door, and I'm looking at the box, and I'm saying, is Sally Jones here? Do you know how I can get in touch with her? Well, the neighbor assumes that I'm looking for the debtor to deliver this package. And that's exactly what I wanted her to think. I just asked for the debtor. I never said anything about delivering a package, but she thought I was trying to deliver the package, and she wants to be helpful. So this helpful lady told me where the debtor worked. Well, I thanked her and went back to the truck, and I left. I drove to the debtor's place of employment, which was a small grocery store in downtown Iuka, Mississippi. After looking around in the parking lot and not seeing the debtor's vehicle, I parked my truck and I took my trusty package, the empty box, wrapped to look like a mail package, and I went inside to ask for the debtor. Again, I took my box in and I looked down at my package and I asked for the debtor. Well, I never said I was trying to deliver a package, and if they thought I was, well, that's their problem, not mine. But anyway, another helpful person, a helpful coworker, told me that the debtor had gone into town to see about getting a new apartment. And she told me the name of the apartment complex and how to find it. Maybe I could catch her there. So I took my little box and I got in my big red wrecker and I drove to the apartment complex. As I was driving into the apartment complex, here comes a vehicle matching the description of the vehicle that I'm looking for. There's a whole bunch of people in that car, and they're leaving the apartment complex, and it was too much of a coincidence. And so I had to assume that this was the debtor driving my vehicle. So I didn't look at the debtor. I ignored him and drove on past, and I didn't want to tip my hand to give the debtor any reason to think that I was there to get that vehicle. I drove into the apartment complex, and as soon as she got out of sight, I quickly turned around and followed the debtor at a discreet distance. She drove to a nearby Hardee's for lunch. Great. She parked the car in the parking lot by the door in front of a big plate glass window where the whole family sat and ate lunch. There's no way that I'm going to get that vehicle while she's in there. They would see me hooking up. So I patiently waited in the parking lot next door until they left. When they finally left, I again followed them at an inconspicuous distance. This time, they went to the Cutshaw Funeral Home in Iuka. They all got out and went into the funeral home. Well, now's my chance. I walked over and checked the VIN number, and sure enough, it was my vehicle. That's the one I was looking for. I backed up to it, and I picked it up, and I pulled it out into the street. I pulled it off to the side of the road across the street from the funeral home and parked in the grass. Now, this is where some folks may have a little problem with how I did stuff, but the ideal repossession would have been to hook and book, get the vehicle, and leave. And I would have been totally justified in leaving. But I try to be considerate. I try to be compassionate. I do my best to try to be a nice guy. I mean, you can do it. But when I checked the VIN number, when I parked and I went over and looked at the vehicle when it was sitting in the parking lot, I saw that there was a Bible in the front seat, a lot of personal property. And if I take this vehicle back to my storage lot in Falkville and store these people's personal property, they're going to have to drive over 100 miles to Falkville to get their personal property back. We also charge $5 a box for each of the boxes we use to store their property. So I was going to be a nice guy, or try to be nice, and save them time and money. Once I had the vehicle off of private property, and that's a key, again, get it off private property, then legally it's mine. There's nothing they can do to prevent me from leaving with that vehicle once I've got it off of private property. So I go into the funeral home and I ask the receptionist about the debtor, and she took me back to her room with an open casket. I know, I'm sorry. I really feel bad about it, but I had a job to do. There was a bunch of mourners standing around chit-chatting, and she pointed out a lady and said that was the debtor. So I went over to her and I asked if I could speak to her privately, and she said okay. So we went over and stood to the side, and I told her that I was there to pick up her car, and that in fact I'd already picked it up, and that she could come get her personal property and give me the keys. Well, she is at the funeral home because a close relative had passed away, and today was visitation. And I almost hate to think, but I think it was her mother. I'm sorry. I did it, and I'm sorry, but it's just the way things worked out. I forgot how she was related to the deceased, but she did not appreciate my compassion or my consideration. She fussed a while, she fumed a while, and we walked over, and she got her property out of the car, and she was muttering something back about the funeral home and me coming in there. But I got the vehicle without having to make a return trip to Iuka. It saved us time, saved us money, and I did get a good cussing, but I probably deserved it. But I had spoken to several people about the debtor and got the information that I needed without ever letting anyone know that I was there to pick up a vehicle or to collect the debt. So you got to be careful. And if somebody, well, you're driving a big red repo truck and you're asking about so-and-so, are you looking to repossess a vehicle? If you think that's your problem. I'm not telling you anything, and I'm not going to spill the beans, but you just have to do what you can. Like I said, if it's close by, if it's near your lot or on the way to your storage lot or whatever, you got the luxury of checking it a couple of times. But if you have to drive all the way over there to get it, do what you can to get it while you're there. All right? Have a good day.